Now, for more on the prospects for Middle East peace talks, we're joined by Faysal Itani. He is the region's Deputy Head of Forecasting at Exclusive Analysis, a specialist intelligence company that predicts political and violent risks worldwide. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. First of all, the current situation is that the US Special Envoy George Mitchell is flying in to try to resuscitate the talks. And that shows just how important these talks are to the Obama administration and the US.
Yes, I think it fits into the U.S. President's general mandate for coming to power, that he finds, well, the U.S. finds itself at war in two Muslim countries. It's looking to extricate itself in the long run from both of these countries. It needs to improve its standing in the Arab and Muslim world more generally. And I think more importantly and critically, it needs to improve the standing or the perceptions of its Arab allies in the region.
Indeed.
They need to be seen as doing something to help the Palestinian cause.
So President Obama's put quite a lot of pressure on these talks to work. He's also put what many might consider to be an extremely optimistic timeline. Is there any chance, in your view, that we could get this settlement in 1 year?
No, we don't think there is. It's very unlikely that they would reach a negotiated settlement, much less in the 1 year time frame. In fact, the entire two-state solution framework itself is unlikely to materialize, but the 1 year time frame is extremely unrealistic.
Now, if we look at, first of all, the Israeli Prime Minister, the question does have to be asked if the structure in Israel is even such that he could, should he want to, deliver the kind of concessions on those key areas that we go back to again and again about Jerusalem, about the overseas refugees, about settlements that would be needed to push this towards the proper negotiated settlement.
I think you're touching on a key point, and it's been a reason behind repeated failures of these sort of negotiations, which is the structure of domestic politics there involves the building of very fragmented, fractious coalitions that very frequently include right-wing parties that would be vehemently opposed to any such concessions. And even were the Israeli Prime Minister to have the political will to do so, he would be unable to deliver on them. He would either risk at best, government collapse or paralysis. He may even risk assassination, has happened in the past before in one of his predecessors. So he's very constrained in that sense, absolutely.
Indeed. And what we're also seeing these days is that President Mahmoud Abbas also doesn't necessarily, certainly doesn't speak for Gaza. And how much, really, of the West Bank does he speak for?
It's unclear. I think more importantly is, I mean, he's not very popular. There has been some improvement in the situation in the West Bank in recent years, but he's perceived as collaborating, essentially, with the Israelis in a security arrangement in the West Bank against their common enemy, Hamas. He is probably not in a position, most likely not in a position, to deliver on any agreements made with the Israelis about the future of settlements in the West Bank and the security of borders, etc.
So far, I've been painting, we've both been painting a fairly bleak picture of the prospects for these talks. But what are the positives? What can come out of the discussions? It's better that they're talking than that they're not talking? I
think it could be possibly better be conceived that there is a process to begin with. The danger, though, is the longer this process goes on and the longer that President Abbas fails to deliver any tangible concessions to his own people, especially in the West Bank, but also in Gaza, the more his own credibility is undermined. So there's a danger in extending talks for talks' sake, because it just weakens the actors, especially on the Palestinian side, and strengthens the case for Hamas, which further weakens President Abbas in the West Bank. So I would say there's very little other than really it's just going through the diplomatic motions more than anything else for all the parties involved.
OK, well, we'll keep a close eye on what's happening in the Middle East. Faysal Itani, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
My pleasure.